Alright, next thing we're going to work on, guys, is the flight stand, because we're going to need the flight stand done so that we can go ahead and get the mounting system all set up and go ahead and get this puppy sealed up so we can move on to all the stuff on the exterior. What I did was I went down to our local Hobby Lobby. Some of you might have Michael's, or I'm not sure what you guys overseas have, but a craft store, and I got this piece of wood. Now, this is a big honking piece of wood, but I want stability overall, because the majority of the time I believe that this is going to be displayed at his house and not on the gaming table. So if he actually needs something for a gaming table, it's a little bit smaller, and we'll make that later. It's no big deal. So this is, I believe, pine. It's not very hardwood. I was able to take my drill, and I know that some of you guys had used the inch diameter acrylic rod, but I had 1/2 inch. That's what we're staying with. We've got the Dragon Forge mount for the 1/2 inch, and then so what I did was to drill a hole. I took my 1/2 inch drill bit, and I'll bring it a little closer in a second so you can see it, and figured out where about the center of the board was, and then I marked it, drilled a hole. Now, if you notice on the end of the drill bit here, it's a little tip. So at the bottom of the board, it poked a hole through the bottom. What we're going to be using is a compound. It's called JB Weld, and it's made to fix things into place permanently. So it's 2 compounds. You mix them together, and it makes a strong epoxy. And then that epoxy will set up over 24 hours. You know, it takes about 15 hours to set up and dry and all that. And when it's in place, it's not coming off. And it's good for woods, PVC, most plastics. So I'm hoping it's going to work well with acrylics. And so what we're going to do is we're going to mix it up. We're going to pour it in there. We're going to push this in. And then any overflow that comes around, we're going to smooth around the edge. Now, eventually, I may come back with some terrain or something, you know, and put a little support there. But I think with the JB Weld, I think it's going to be good enough to hold the weight pretty much permanently. The reason why I put the tape on the bottom was when that hole down there, I don't want the JB Weld to come leaking out the bottom, so I took a small plastic bag and then I taped it into place, and that should hold the JB Weld. And even if the JB Weld sticks to plastic, you can go right in and cut it off. It won't be that big a deal. So that's what we got, and we'll come back as soon as it's done, and I'll show you how it went. Alright guys, the instructions for the JB Weld say, mix equal parts onto a disposable surface, stir thoroughly, and then apply to your surface. And so that's what we're going to do. So here goes some of the black stuff. Hopefully it won't eat through this, hopefully it won't eat through the plastic that I have it on. That was the only disposable thing I could find. So there's a gob of the black stuff. And then here comes a glob. I presume this stuff is going to be red. Alright, it is white. Here goes an equal gob of the white stuff. It's actually gray. Alright. I have this wooden stir, so that's about equal. Wooden stir. And we've made gray stuff now. Oh, still some white in there. We're gonna stuff a stick. Alright, we're gonna load some down into our hole. Now the thing about JB Weld is that you can sand it and drill through it. It'll harden up where you can actually, drill through it. I don't know that it wouldn't make a I don't know that it does it with heat. But during the chemical process of it hardening, I don't know if there's a heat involved. But I don't know if you could use this to maybe make some parts with instant mold. I mean, this stuff is supposed to be no kidding hard. Alright, so I've loaded up my hole. I'm going to put a little on here. Now, because of the shape of the drill bit, there was a small reservoir in the bottom of this, which is why I loaded so much in there. I anticipate a lot of it's going to squirt out as soon as I put this rod in, but a lot of it's going to go into the hole. There we go. Take it down there, good. Smush it in. Alright, that sucker's in there, dude. Some of it squirted out the bottom, but that's okay. That's what we want. So I can always go back and sand it off the bottom, so it's no big deal. So let's take some and build up a little bead around here. Now I'm going to flock this base. I'm going to put some building components on it. I really haven't decided what I want to do with the base yet to make it look all display worthy. But we can do something. Blue Table Painting did one where they put a blown up rhino on there. And it looked pretty sexy. So I might copy their idea, put a blown up vehicle. I've got a few of them. Just have our Thunderhawk flying over some battle damaged Lehman Russ or something. Alright guys, here we go. We're gonna do the dude. Not very often you see somebody using a drill on the Thunderhawk, but the 2-inch hole thing is what's killing me. I want to make sure it's exactly correct. Just this side, and it's important to have a variable speed drill so you can go nice and slow. Go. Almost there. Here it's screaming in protest. Look, I'm Forgeworld, damn it. You're not supposed to use a big power tool on me. That's perfect. Alright, when you hear me talk about scoring the model, what I mean by that is I take the blade, like my X-Acto here, where this would be just a nice flat piece of resin, I'd take it and put little lines through it, and then that way that gives the glue something to grab when you put it on the bottom. So basically we flip this puppy over like this, and then we'll score right around here. And score it so that way the and this is only for big parts. You're not going to do this for something small. But we're going to score it up, rough it up a little bit, so that way when we put our super glue, it'll be a stronger bond. And trust me, you'll see the difference. So I'm going to take some glue, put it on here. This should do just fine. I'm going to line it up between those two lines on that panel right there. Bam, and that sucker all line up just perfect. Look, it's already grabbed. Yeah, see, look at that. That sucker's already on there, dude. That's what I talk about when you put resin on resin like that, you know, with it scored and everything. As soon as that super glue hit, look at that. That sucker's on there. So, that's what you gotta look out for, man, because if I had put that on there wrong, I'd be hosed right now. Alright, guys, here we go. I got the hole drilled through for the flight stand. I'll show you the bottom in a second. I got this brass piping from my hobby store, and it's not glued in yet. But I wanted to show you how this works before I do it. I have one of these on the bottom. So the resin will pass through here. This one's not sanded down, but I sanded the other one down from the inside with my Dremel so that it passes through. Comes up through the floor into this tube, and then it connects right here on the bottom of this. I'm not really going to be worried about it moving around, I don't believe. I don't think I'll have to brace it. This is going to go on top like this. Now, since this is a piece of thin resin, what I did was I took one of my old first place plaques from one of my model contests, and I cut the brass plaque off, and I used it to reinforce the roof, which makes it a lot firmer. And again, the rod isn't going to be moving back and forth because of the mounting hole under the bottom and the brass rod there. It's going to keep everything nice and tight. And then I'm going to take the roof, and then I'm going to glue it down, right? So this will all be glued down, and then I'm going to run some beads of JB Weld along the back, along the bottom, so that it all hugs down and won't come apart. And then what's going to happen when this goes over the top, all right, so this is going to help right there. What's going to happen then is the rod will be pushing against this, which will be transferring the weight to here, which will be supported by all this, which in turn will be clipped in by all of this, right? This still needs to be spread out a little bit more. It didn't go on quite like it should, but I don't want to push it. But you get the idea. This will be holding on this, which will be holding on this. All this will have glue on it. All along the seams, along the bottom will have glue, and therefore it should never break. You know, I wouldn't think that it would be. I think that this seam is long enough. It's going to take all the weight. With the rod seized up in there, with the rod secured in there like it's going to be, then what we're going to do is, that's just not lined up right. With the rod secured in there, it's not going to jiggle back and forth, and we're not going to have a tendency to tip this way because it's going to be too far up in there. So I'm getting ready to seal this puppy up. We're going to get all this done probably by the weekend. So by the time you see this video, I should have it done. We'll see what happens. Alright guys, here's the beta test of my system. It's the tape test. This will hold out for a minute or two. You have the rod going through the bottom. It's being held in by the top. The only thing I'm going to do now is make a receptor for the top of the thing. But I mean, this is pretty sturdy. Keep in mind, this is my base for my towel flyer, but it's the same size rod. So this is pretty sturdy, man. It's not wobbling whatsoever. I mean, it's in there. So maybe I don't have to do as much as I thought I would. It's, like I said, it tends, it's going to be a little tail heavy. But the only thing left to add on is the actual tail and the two nacelles. But then there's going to be two more nacelles up there. So I think we're good. I think this is a winner. So there you go, the beta test.